with you. I'm with you. I'm with you. Falling, falling, calling, calling for you. Please don't leave me on my own. I can be me when I'm with you. You're the right when I'm feeling wrong. You're the place where I belong. I'm with you. 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 Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another podcast. We have a wonderful German artist here. He's actually from New York, but his name is Jan Klose. And from subway stages in Hamburg to global playlists reaching millions, from a childhood that spanned Germany, Kenya, South Africa, and the United States, to sharing the stage with some of the music's most legendary names. This is the story of an artist whose journey is as powerful as his sound. Now, I'm going to mention to you that he is German and he was born in Mannheim, Germany, but he was raised, believe it or not, in Nairobi and Johannesburg, and later shaped by life in Hamburg and Ohio. Today's guest is definition of a true global musician, a singer, songwriter, performer, and storyteller. I like that. He's got 8 albums, 2 EPs, and over 10 million streams. His music has climbed top 40 charts across continents. You've heard his voice on radio, in film, on stage, and maybe even without realizing it in some unforgettable moments on screen. He's portrayed, believe it or not, he's portrayed the voice of Tim Buckley in film, performed in Broadway classics like my favorite, Jesus Christ Superstar, Jekyll and Hyde, and The Who's Tommy. That's a great one, especially when Roger Daltrey was in the movie.
Mhm.
And he collaborated with icons like Pat Benatar, John Oates, Suzanne Vega, and Quincy Jones, and we know who they are. This is absolute honor to have you on the show. And Jan has periodically collaborated with members of classic rock group Renaissance 3, most recent recording version of Peter Gabriel's classic hit song Don't Give Up, and Annie Haslam. Jan tours regularly in the US, Europe, Africa, and Asia. He has worked with a wide range of artists, including, well, we already mentioned it, but it also includes Bret Michaels, Willie Porter, the Straubs, Rosanna Cash, the
Rosanne
Bird,
Cash,
Rosanne Cash, the Birds, Roger McGinn,
Roger
Marty
McGuinn.
Stuart, yep, and also the Yardbirds, and
Yes.
also he's worked with Les Paul. And if you ever seen that photo of Paul McCartney and Les Paul holding the Paul, Les Paul, Les holding Paul. I don't know if you know that. If you know that photo,
I do. Yes.
but if that's not enough, he's also host of his own hit podcast, Making Sound, and featuring over 140 conversations, some of the biggest names in the music industry. Now, everyone, with his newly released album, The Future Trap, released May 29th this year, he continues to evolve, inspire, and push creative boundaries. Welcome to the OnStage podcast, Jan Klose.
Hi, Christopher.
Hello, Jan. How are you?
I'm fantastic, and you?
I'm good. So,
Glad to hear it.
just want to get ready because this is more than just a conversation. It's a journey through sound, culture, and creativity. Well, so Jan, I want to go back to the beginning. What was it like growing up in Mannheim, Germany, and how did that early environment shape your creativity?
Well, I actually didn't grow up in Mannheim. My mother's family is from Mannheim, and I was born there only because uh, my mother was too proud for me to be born in Ludwigshafen, which is just across the river on the Rhine River, where my mother was working at the time and was in a new relationship with my father. They both worked for BASF at the time, and my father worked for BASF his whole life until he retired. And so my mother said, I don't want my son to be my first son. I was her first son.
Mm.
I have a younger brother and a younger sister. And she just didn't want me to be born in Ludwigshafen. She wanted me to be born in Mannheim, like herself and her father and her. I'm not sure about her mother, my grandmother on that side. I'm honestly not sure if she was born in Mannheim as well. But um, she wanted me to be born in the same city that she was born in. So that's the only reason. And then we lived in Ludwigshafen, which is just across the Rhine River, as I mentioned. And then my father got an assignment to work in Nairobi, an offer to work in Africa in sales uh, for BASF, and he took it. And they went on a great adventure, and they were very adventurous people. Something that I think I probably inherited the most from them is my sense for adventure and travel and lust for life, which I very much have. And moved to Nairobi, some a long time ago, and my brother was actually born there.
Mm.
And we attended a nursery, a kindergarten in Nairobi, which was English. So English was always around. We spoke English from a very young age, or we heard the language. We spoke German at home. Um, and the rest is history in a sense that we then moved to Johannesburg because he was transferred to South Africa, and then we lived in South Africa. This was 5 years in Kenya, and then 6 years in Johannesburg. And after that, my parents divorced
Mm.
while we lived in Johannesburg, and then we moved back to Germany with my grandparents and lived with my grandparents in Germany in Hamburg. And then eventually, I became an exchange student in the U.S. of A. In Ohio, and lived a whole other new life and adventure. And now I've been in New York for some 20 years now. So this is my home.
That's good. I have like family in New York as well, so I've been there and I love it.
And you're
And
in Toronto.
I'm in Toronto, but I do go to New York when I can because I got a nephew down there. And
I love Toronto. I played there with Jim McCarty from the Yardbirds.
yeah,
I did a show at, oh my God, now if I can remember the name of the place. Oof, this is good. I'm afraid I can't think of it at the moment.
is it the
Um,
Elma Combo or something else?
No, it was another venue. It was a very nice venue, medium-sized venue. Jim McCarty performed, Yardbirds founder, drummer, performed his original music. I opened the show and then sat in with him at the end of his show and performed three Yardbirds songs as
Nice.
vocalist. So it was like a miracle, because I got to be a Yardbird and I loved those songs. They're amazing, amazing tunes.
So you
It was
must be an
very,
Eric
very.
Clapton. You must be an Eric Clapton fan as well because he was
I,
in
w-
the.
I would consider myself to be a fan of Eric Clapton. Yes, I would consider myself to be that. Yes, and it was funny because we had another show in Hamilton, just about an hour and a half
Yep,
south,
45 minutes,
southeast.
hour this
Yeah,
way.
not far. And I remember being in the because we drove separately. I had my own vehicle, and they had a bus, or like they had like a Sprinter or something. And Jim said, "Hey, can I ride with you?" And I said, "Yes, of course, darling. It'd be my pleasure and my honor." It really
That's
was. And I
awesome.
mean, a lovely guy. Jim, one of the nicest people I've ever met in my entire life, as far as rock stars are concerned. He's creme de la creme. And we're sitting in the car and we're chatting, And he's like, yes, well, just blah blah, just yeah, Jimmy and Eric and in my mind I'm like, he's talking about Jimmy Page and Eric Clapton, and I'm sitting here driving. you know, I will never forget that moment because it was quite, it was one of those head turning, like, is this really happening to me? Is this my life now? Moments. Yeah.
I have a friend in the music business. He called
We
me, and
all
I'm
have.
just having. I was just. I know. I was just having breakfast, and he calls me and said, "Hi, how's it going?" I said, "Yeah, hi. You will not believe this. What? But Peter Cetera called me," and I'm like, "What?" So he's a really
Beautiful
cool guy. He
voice.
knows
Beautiful
all these people.
voice.
I love Peter Cetera.
Great
Yeah,
voice. Great
yeah.
singer. Great
I
musician.
only got involved in Chicago because of Peter Cetera, but people are big Terry Kath fans, and they kind of left
Yeah, I'm
Chicago.
not that read
Yeah,
in on Chicago. I
yeah.
mean, I have like one of their albums that I like a lot.
Mm. Well, yeah. So, Jan, I know that you were raised across Kenya, South Africa, Germany, and then the U.S., but how did those cultural experiences influence your music and identity as an artist?
So, this is probably the question I get the most. And, you know, the answer is the same every time. I really don't know. I really don't know exactly what specifically of that did to my thinking or my psyche or my view, because when I lived in those places, I mostly listened to American music and British music and European pop, you know. And then there was also a lot of African music that I was exposed to. And I think that did influence my sense of rhythm, I think. My sense for,
Hmm.
pulsation in music and but mostly I think living in Africa, the thing that I took with me the most is the amount of joy people experience for life. Joy in music, dance, performance, connection, intimacy,
Hmm.
um, culture, rhythm, color. Those are the things that I think I took with me that have stayed with me, and they still do. Because I tour in South Africa, and when I go, I feel like it is a return home. And I remember my childhood, and I remember the people, and also the it's very complicated. Politically, it was very complicated because, we experienced apartheid. I mean, I was too young to understand what it meant, but
Hmm.
it's that also certainly influenced my view of the world. And I think when we came back to Germany, because the South African media was run by the whites,
Mm.
and apartheid was still in place. I mean, it was falling apart by the time we left, and then ended. But the German news portrayed it very differently than the news in South Africa. So one of my earliest memories is the power of the media and the influence of the media on people, and how and this is happening again, like over and over, and
Hmm.
it's never ended. It never really ended. It's still happening right now. It's happening. It happened today. So just you watch what's going on and you go, that's not really what's happening. Somebody's selling you a story here, and
Hmm.
it's up to you to do the research if it's true or not.
Yeah, and especially if you have friends who actually live there, they can tell you the truth as well, wherever it is, right?
Sure, and it's never easy. It's never easy. Nothing is easy when it comes to culture and the melting pots that we're living in the world. It's happening more and more. I mean, America is the king of that. We people have come here because they have a chance, and I'm an example of that because I'm living, quote unquote, the American dream, uh, because I came here with a dream and worked really, really hard to make that happen. I think that's still true. I think that still happens.
Hmm.
So uh, it's a nothing is easy, Christopher.
That's true, Jan. So I know you taught yourself keyboard and guitar during high school, but what drove that self-starting approach to music?
The fact that I wasn't allowed to play an instrument. So when I talked about wanting to be a musician, I was talked out of it, or they tried, but that didn't work. So I would sneak away. I would skip classes. I would skip swim practice. I was a swimmer, and I loved to swim, so I didn't skip it often. But when I did, I went to the local department store and sat on a keyboard, put on headphones like I have now, and started,
Yeah.
making stuff up and going, oh, this sounds really great if I do this, if I, move up and down the keyboard, on the black keys. Wow, they all fit together. So this is when I knew nothing about music. So later, I taught myself guitar, and I studied voice, and sang a lot of choral music.
Oh
So,
wow.
which was really, for me, the best probably lesson that I ever got was to sing with other singers and hear other singers, and hear myself, and working with sounding what I sounded like with other singers. So that was probably the most useful information that I collected, and you know working with a mentor, working with a coach or a teacher, and taking information, and working with other musicians that I worked with and listened to what they listened to. And
Hmm.
so I I spend a lot of time just absorbing sound, ideas, songwriting, what people did in a live show, what people did uh, as writers, how people recorded themselves, and it's still evolving. This lesson never really ends, because it constantly changes. The way you record now is completely different than 30, 40 years ago. And when I started, the internet was already a thing. So I kind of came in right in the cusp of it. When the industry was really changing and technology was really starting to have an effect.
I heard somewhere that not only did your family not appreciate you wanting to get into music, keyboard, and guitar, but you also thought, well, if I start to sing, they might not have a problem. But they had a problem with that too. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I see you've been watching my other interviews.
I got to
I,
know all
I
about my artists. Who am I
I'm
talking
flattered.
to?
I'm flattered. I mean, yeah. So I really had to convince people, and my family especially, which were quite conservative, and because I was raised by my grandparents, they thought if you wanted to be a singer, that meant you had to be an opera singer, or you
Mm.
had to tackle classical music, and I did. I was interested in it. I love opera. I still love opera. Like I could still get lost in La Traviata,
Yeah.
first act, maybe not the whole thing, but first act number is excellent from beginning to end. It's a great piece it's 45 minutes of excellent writing and composing and performances. So, I singing came naturally. It came naturally. It was very easy for me, and it was just something that I loved doing and still love doing. And I tell people singing is very healthy. It's good for you. You breathe differently when you sing. You have to connect with yourself. You have to listen to your head. Because if you listen to, you have to. Singing comes from here. Not
Hmm.
from here or anywhere. It comes from here. You have to think about what you're doing, and you have to feel what you're saying. It's language. So it's a beautiful thing that hopefully will exist throughout the ages, because I think we need that kind of intimacy, because singing is very intimate too. And like when you're in a room with someone and they start singing, you immediately go, okay, God, I hope this is going to be okay. Hope I can take it.
Hmm.
But then when it touches you, it's a powerful experience, and you don't forget it. It's a ritual almost. Because we're using not spoken word but sung word. So, and I mean, there are cultures that have invented languages and alphabets that are centered around how you inflect a voice and a tone, and so it's a powerful experience.
So I don't know if you know the story about there was this guy who was just playing in the subway system. I can't remember where, and people are on their way. to the Joshua Bell violin concert, and people were watching and walking past him, and the interviewer says, "What would you do if you could? Where are you going now?" I said, "Joshua Bell." "Well, how much did you pay for those tickets?" He said, "This much." I said, "So would you give anything to see him perform for free?" And she said, "Yes, you better believe it." "Well, who do you think that guy is?" And it was Joshua Bell playing the violin, and nobody recognized him. So I'm
In the
asking
street.
you, yeah, in the
Yeah.
street, in the subway. But what do you remember most about performing in subway stations and clubs in Hamburg early in your career?
Yeah. I think it's, I love it when musicians do that. And, we just become incognito for a minute. And it's a good way to remember why you do it. And, when we were sitting in those, and I was in high school, in Germany, and my friend Roman and I, we used to stand in the subway station and wait for the trains to come and stop and like let out. And they would it would be like a barrage of people coming up the the escalators, and we were like in the middle of a chorus, and the song was about to end, and there'd be this barrage of people coming, and we'd look at each other and go, another chorus, another chorus.
That's
We
awesome.
would repeat the chorus. And of course, that was always like, because we would play like, American music. I mean, I was just starting to write. I mean, we are like 16, 17, 18 maybe. And I was just starting to write songs. And it was great because we would play like, hooks of like popular, American songs, or, and the money would just like, people would just like plunk and like keep walking. They would just stop by and throw in the cash. And it's one of those first experiences that you have of value of what music can do and how it affects people. Whether they do it out of guilt or not, I don't know. But I mean, we sounded pretty good, I think, then. We were cute and young and popular, and we felt good about ourselves, and we were having fun. And I was just learning. I mean, my hands were hurting, and but it was a great experience to find out what the grind, because it is a grind, playing music, performing, traveling, making records. That's the best part for me. Like, I love recording and writing and producing, but it's a grind. It's hard work, and it's
Yeah,
good. That's okay. Like, I don't mind that.
yeah. I remember when Adele joined the Adele singing contest, the Adele lookalike contest, and everyone started singing. And when she walked up, and as soon as she started singing, they knew exactly who she was because of her voice. It's very pristine. It's very like
Yeah,
unique.
it's recognizable.
Yeah. But
Mm.
at what point did you realize music could become a full time career rather than just a passion?
You know, I'm still not. I still don't really know how this works, except that I keep doing it, and I've had a measurable amount of success now, and it's my full time job. I don't do anything else. I love music. I just love being around it. I love. You need breaks from it because it's so emotional and
Hmm.
powerful. But I think that's always been there. I mean, when I started to get paid to do it, that was probably when I thought, oh, okay, there's value here, real value, that I can take home and pay my bills with. So I think there is a turning point in every artist's life for that, whatever they end up doing. But for me, it was much harder because I'm not a cover band. I'm not a tribute act.
Hmm.
I write. I want to write. I can sing. I've done a lot of other things that have uh, paid my wages, so to speak, that are connected to music. But for
Hmm.
me, the most important part that I have the pleasure of enjoying now is being a songwriter and getting paid
Hmm.
to do it. Because that to me is that's profound because that's what I always wanted.
Oh yeah, and your last album was really good. I love your music, and of course, do 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 do. I love that one. That's like
When
really.
I'm with you.
I just listened to it almost 15 times already today.
Oh boy.
But your work spans music, theater, and film. So how do those disciplines influence each other creatively?
Yeah, work ethic. I look for that in myself. I look for that in people I work with. I look for that in the talent I work with because I also coach, I mentor. So I have private students, and for me, work ethic is number one. If you are called to show up, show up, and if just be happy about the fact that there's a large percentage of people that don't. They don't show up. So you have a head start if you show up. And if you're prepared, you will succeed. And if you develop skill, you will succeed. And if you don't give up, you will succeed.
Hmm.
You have to, it's a long haul, it's a life choice. You have to make the choice. I had a moment, and this is now, 15 years ago, I would say, when I felt like I jumped off of a trampoline or a diving board into the
Hmm.
water, and I've stayed in the water the whole time.
Mm.
I never got out. I keep swimming, and I think that's you have to get to that point where you just say, okay, this is it. I'm going to do this. I'm going to commit to it, and you can always stop. You can always say, okay, I've had enough.
Hmm.
Everyone's at liberty to do that, but I think when you go in for it, you got to go in for the kill. You got to go in to get it. You got to go in to get that hit or that record that you want to make, that you love, that you hear in your head. If you hear that record and hear that music in your head, you have to do it. Just do it, and then see what happens, because you don't know. You
Yeah.
just really, you never know. But if you're in the right place at the right time and you're ready and prepared for that moment, you can succeed and you will succeed. So it happened to me. If it happened to me, it can happen to me. It can happen to anyone that puts that kind of commitment into the work.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a
Is
that.
that a hair sticking out? Oh yeah. I'm just realizing. Look at this. It's like
I don't know what that. Oh, okay.
I'm gonna like hide it because it's gonna annoy me now. My OCD is kicking in.
Well, talk about hair. You should see Pat Benatar's hair these days. Now you collaborated with her, and also John Oates and Suzanne
Yeah,
Vega. So,
yeah.
what's one collaboration that truly changed your perspective?
I mean, they were all great. I opening for Pat Benatar was awesome. Because her crowd loved me, I loved them. Seeing her perform was very inspiring. Very a trained singer, very committed, very professional. Her and her husband are a great team.
Mm,
Musically, they're power people. They work really hard, and they don't around. Pardon my French. You can
hmm.
bleep that. Suzanne Vega, same thing. Like extremely gifted songwriter. I remember she came out after I opened for her, and she was just like, "Nice melodies." And I said, "Oh, thank you. I'm glad you like it." Because I mean, I grew up listening to Suzanne Vega. Like because she was huge in Germany when I was a kid. In the '90s. And I mean, John Oates was probably he was intimidating a little bit because I really loved Hall and Oates,
Mm.
and I got to sing with him. Like I would just open for him. I would go on at the end of his show and sing with him, do a Hall and Oates song, and did the Daryl Hall part, you
Mm.
know, which was extremely intimidating and very I was very honored by it, just because also they went their separate ways, and I
I
was like,
know.
because
That's sad.
I
Mm.
went into I became Daryl Hall. So I mean that must have been weird for him too. But what I liked about Oates is like he was a genuine musician, very knowledgeable about music, and funny. He was a funny dude, like he still is. He just he's a very down to earth, very real guy, but very confident, and very professional. No screwing around. So yeah, I liked him a lot.
Yeah, Pat Benatar, what a voice! Wow,
Yeah,
she even sounds
incredible.
really
Great
good
songs.
in her 70s as well.
Yes,
Um, but what
she's got a
about yeah?
wonderful
And Suzanne
voice.
Vega, she has that really apart from Luca, there's that really weird song called
Great
"Blood
song.
Makes Noise." It's like a really
I don't
strange.
know that song.
Oh boy, it's a weird
Blood
song.
Makes Noise.
Blood
Okay,
Makes
I'll
Noise.
check
Yeah,
that
it's
out.
really
I'll check
interesting. Yeah,
that out.
check that one out. Um, but also, yeah, the really. But apart from these wonderful collaborations, especially I'm going to mention her name, Pat Benatar. Critics have compared your style to artists like Sting, which is wow, Paul Simon, and Nick Drake. How do you view those comparisons?
Well, I never met Nick Drake because he died very young, but I met Paul Simon. I met Sting on a couple of occasions, and I mean, they're great artists, great
Hmm.
songwriters. They're very inspiring to me. Uh, you know, I think what I like about both of them is again the same thing that I value is longevity. Is just the creative flow, and you keep reinventing yourself, and you keep going, and you just see what comes out. And if you're able to do that, you're very lucky.
Hmm.
And if you follow that voice, and you're honest with yourself, and you keep doing that, I find that highly impressive, because it's the industry has changed a million times over since those guys started. And they could have stopped a long time ago and said, okay, that was fun. But they want to write, they want to create, they like to work, they they get pleasure out of what they do, and to varying degrees of success, because they've had ups and downs in their careers. Many of I mean, that's true for everybody. But I appreciate people that like Sting and Paul Simon, who are lifers, who just
Hmm.
keep going and go, okay, well, what can I do that I haven't done? And how can I do it? And how's it going to work? And how much money is it going to cost? Because it's always a huge investment, the amount of money that, I mean, labels used to spend that kind of money. Now we kind of have to spend it ourselves as
Hmm.
artists. So but that's okay too, because we own our copyrights, we own our masters. And so there's upsides and downsides to that.
Yeah, that's a very impressive thing of work that you have there. And but what was it like serving as a singing voice at Tim Buckley and Greetings from Tim Buckley? That's quite a like. How did that come about?
Well, that was a very, like, to put it lightly, it was kind of surprising and uh, traumatic, I would say, because I came in post production. Uh, I had to dub the actor that played Tim Buckley, and it was a grand experience, because I got to sing those songs that are amazing. I love Tim's music. Um, and I love Jeff's music too. Jeff Buckley, his son. I knew of Jeff because I kind of came into that when I was starting out. He had an album called Grace
Mm.
that I loved, that I discovered right before he died. It was a very weird situation, I would say, because he had this sort of otherworldly sound, and people would compare me to his father before I
Mm.
even knew who he was.
Whoa.
So people would be like, "You kind of," when I was starting out, and I didn't, it took me a long time to like get to a place where I appreciated what I did. Like I was always very, very self-critical. So I didn't always enjoy uh, success in the way that I do now, because I think I'm getting better. I feel like I'm starting, like I like to say, I feel like I'm starting to get good. slowly. So there's always room for improvement. I think that's probably the point of this. But when people would say, "Oh, you sound like Tim Buckley," and I was like, "Who's that?" I had no idea uh, who that was. So later, I was his, or am his singing voice and guitar in a movie that is titled after him. So it's something that I appreciate very much, that I was in the right, again, it was the right place, right time, because I was working with Gary Lucas at the time, and he recommended me to the director. And when I auditioned for the part, they only saw me. So I was the only person that auditioned, and I auditioned, and they were like, "I want you to do this." And I was like, "Really? Aren't you going to like call me back?" Because I was used to the whole of the Broadway world, which was, you had to just do it 100 times and show up again and do it better, and and really impress people. But that was, I think it was also the time constraint that they were under at the time, because they were trying to finalize the thing, and they already had a lot of interest, and at one point during a screening, Al Pacino was sitting next to me, and I thought, how, it was another one of those moments of, how did I get here? And is this my life? But it was a very rewarding experience, I think, musically, and the fact that I'm in this movie, which is, I'm always going to be in those credits, so that's a nice achievement, and but I try not to overthink it. I just try to just do my thing, keep going, and I'm glad I had that experience.
Yeah, I'm actually a big fan of Sting. Not well, I like this Police as well, but big fan of his solo work, and I would
Mhm.
like to meet him and have him on the show. And then one day, my brother, he likes to go to Toronto International Film Festival, and one day, and he's like, calling Chris, you will not believe this. What, Sting was sitting beside me, and I'm like, ah, but I, and that's amazing there, and I bet you didn't know that Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, who actually started in the Mickey Mouse Club, they were like 13 years old. They didn't have any idea that one day they'd be like famous musicians, and Taylor would do like like Taylor Taylor Swift was actually in there too. But just like you said, you never know where you're going to be when you first
No.
started out. But now look at the voice of Tim Buckley, and also you had the theater experience productions like Jesus Christ Superstar and Jekyll and Hyde. How did that shape your performance style as a musician?
I mean, that was really experience. I got to know what it's like to live on the road, which wasn't always pleasant, and just going on every night and like killing it. Like for me, it was like, yeah, I could do this. And I'm getting paid to sing, and so it was just a really, plus. I mean, I love the Who, so
Mhm.
being the singing the Pinball Wizard. The only thing I didn't like is that I didn't get to sing all three verses. So yeah, but yeah, no, it's a great song, one of the best, and because I remember seeing Tommy, the original, the movie, with Elton John performing the Pinball Wizard. He was the Pinball Wizard, and that just made a big impression on me. And Tina Turner, and like those people made big impressions on me when I was really young.
And look at where you are now, Jan. Amazing.
In my kitchen.
No, you know what I mean. Like where you are musically.
Thank you. Yeah,
Uh,
no, it does. It does feel. Uh, I work really hard, and so I'm right now that my new album is out. The Future Trap. It
mhm.
just came out, and I'm enjoying the fact that people are listening to it, and they tell me what they think about the music, and that it's very gratifying, because it was a lot of work, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of pleasure. Went into it, and a lot of just joy of creating. So I'm really grateful. Honestly, I'm trying to internalize this, because I'm sort of very obsessive when it comes to work, and I have a hard time slowing down. And I really like just go very hard, and then when I have to slow down, or when something is completed, it takes me a minute to recover.
Yeah.
You know.
I'm way over 405 episodes on podcasts, but I learned a
Wow,
lot from
congrats.
different artists,
That's a
especially from
lot.
you, and I learned a lot. Now, your podcast, Making Sound, has featured over 140 episodes, but
Mhm.
what's one conversation that really stuck with you?
It was Howard Jones, which is very recent. It's one of the new ones. So Howard Jones came on the show, and I was in Mexico. I was in Mexico City. I had a performance and had a like an in-store and a promo trip performance there, and so when the interview came up, I thought, oh damn, I don't have all my equipment with me. Should I maybe just postpone this? But I was just like, I'm not going to turn down Howard Jones. He's going to be really fun to talk to. And I remember his music from when I was a kid because my older cousins,
Hmm.
uh, they were totally into him, and his music was very popular in Germany. I was too young. I didn't quite, like I wasn't quite able to get on that train, but I just remember them being like all over it. And then of course I know the songs, and what I like about Howard was that he really brought the synth element of music into
Hmm.
pop music. Like he really was a crossover inventor type. But again, he's a super down to earth, very smart guy, really talented, and very funny. So that what surprised me is, I would ask him a question, and he would just start laughing, and I'd be like, "Does he think I'm funny, or am I asking dumb questions?" So, and then I was just like, "No, that's just who he is. This is just his sense of humor, and I get it because I get asked so many questions, and I have to repeat myself constantly because a lot of it are the same questions, and so I always try to like come
Mm.
at it from a different angle with people like that. But Howard was great. He was fun to talk to. It was a short interview, and his publicist just emailed me today, and she was like, "Howard would like to come back
Oh, nice!
on your
Congratulations!
show." So I said,
Congratulations!
"Great," because we really didn't have that much time. So last week he wanted to come on last week, and I couldn't do it because I was on the road,
Hmm.
and so I'm having him on my show on this Thursday, which is, what date is that? That is going to be the 17th. No, the 18th
Congratulations!
of
Yeah.
June. So, yeah, he was a lot of fun. I mean, a lot of other people. I mean, I've had some great conversations with people, and it took me a while to kind of get the hang of it because I did it out of necessity because during COVID, all my shows got canceled. So
Mm.
my reaction to that was, well, I've always wanted to do something like this. Let me do it. Now's a good time to try it. And I called all the people that I knew, like all the famous people I knew, and I was like, "Would you do this?" And everyone
Mm.
said, "Well, what else am I going to do?" Yes. so, I had like a great kickoff with people, and it took me a while to kind of get the hang of it, and I got better at it, I think. And now I just try to get people to spill the beans. Ta-da!
Yeah.
There you go.
I like the five timers club. Like I've had people on more than seven times because I just
Oh,
love the
really?
show.
7? I have four or five with oh my God, now I'm blanking. Um, uh, oh my God, Howard. Oh shit, I can't believe I'm blanking on this right now. Um, he was Prince's publicist. Uh, why am I blanking on his name right now?
That's okay. That's all right.
I'm gonna look it up because that's I feel embarrassed. Uh, so and I've actually never met this
By the way,
person.
let me tell you a little story. So I had a lady on, Jennifer Finch, from a punk band called L7. Her best friend is
Oh,
Courtney
I know.
Love.
I've heard of them.
Courtney Love is her best friend, and she was saying
Uh-huh.
that. I said, so who? She said that she set Courtney and Kurt Cobain up. It's kind of amazing.
She sang. She did what?
She set them up
Oh, really?
as a couple. Yeah, she set them up, and I'm
Howard
like,
Howard Bloom.
Howard Bloom. I've heard of him.
Howard Bloom, who's
Wow.
also Michael Jackson's publicist.
Wow.
Yeah,
Amazing. You never
and
know who you're going to meet.
he's a brilliant man, and super nice. Like he emails me like regularly. But when I first met him on a phone call years ago, and when I was starting out, and I was so bored. I was so green and so stupid, like I really didn't know what I was doing. And he was on this call, and I was like, oh God, this is such a bore. And I remember just like, I know, it's embarrassing, but I woke up, like later I realized, holy shit, what did you do, you Dumbo? Like
I
that
know.
that guy was the reason that Purple Rain, the movie, ended up in 100 theaters, not 10. And he tells the story on my podcast on Making Sound. He says, you know, I was in the theater and we watched Purple Rain with the Warner Brothers executives. And after that, we had a meeting, and all the Warner Brothers people were like, yeah, not so great. It's okay, it's okay. Like let's put it in like 10 theaters and see what it does. And Howard said, stop, put this in as many theaters as possible. It's going to be a huge hit. And he was right.
Did Mr. Bloom ever tell you about Prince's house in Turks and Caicos with a purple driveway? Because when I was in Turks and
No,
Caicos a few years ago, I did a tour and we actually saw the house, and the driveway is purple, by the
I
way.
know about the purple driveway.
It's like amazing. Um, so okay, well, let's talk about. So you're teaching master classes. What's the biggest misconception young artists have about the music industry today?
The biggest misconception, there's so many. The biggest one is probably that they don't understand ownership, copyright, publishing.
Oh yeah,
They don't understand how that works, which is very, very important. And the sooner you get that, the better. So I think that's probably the biggest, and that it takes an endless amount of work, and that you can't. Um, it's not for lazy people.
are you totally against AI in music?
Uh, I'm not against anything in particular. I just think that if you want to utilize intelligence, or artificial intelligence, or effects in music, or tuning in music, which has been around for a long time, synthesizers, electronics in music have been around a long time. I think the difference with AI is large language models. So, and LLMs, that's a whole other bag, and that is a huge step forward. But it has its limitations in a sense that it can only uh, recreate what has already been created. So some people would argue with that, in a sense that it can offer ideas. So I think that's true. But the question is can you utilize those ideas? Because you still need to be able to reflect upon
Hmm.
the information that you get. So it's a regurgitation that, because of the LLM, offers new ideas and new choices to you, which is also just a search. So if it goes beyond that, we've seen a lot of stuff happen there in the last 10, 15 years, including blockchain. But there are a lot of unanswered questions about these things, and we're not at a place, I think, where it's quite clear how it's going to land. It's just like when the internet came up, we really didn't know what all it was going to do, and it was a lot of good, but also a lot of bad. So what my thing with when it comes to music is, if you're going to press a button to fix your song,
Hmm.
you didn't have a song.
Mm.
You didn't have a song. If it's going to make it better, uh, according to who? It's always subjective. So uh, I think it's important that you develop skill. And I think if you utilize technology and AI for music exclusively, or a lot, or too much, I mean, that's it, again, all of that is subjective. It is a sliding scale of sorts. You'll never learn how to fix it yourself. It's kind of like auto tune. Are you
Mm.
gonna let? Are you gonna? It starts there. Like if you're gonna have that key, that pitch fixed with a button, or are you gonna go back into the booth and do it again and do it maybe better and more
Mm.
expressively
Oh, yeah.
and put something into it that you've never done. So which is it? Are you lazy? Button. Would you want to, go deep? Go back in the booth, do it again. So, and people know the difference, and that they're going to know that more and more, because it's slow. That those types of changes, we think they're happening really fast. The money gets spent really fast, but the actual impact of it takes time.
Yeah, that's true. I know for time, do you think you can walk? Okay, I know there's two songs of yours, Sugar My and When I'm With You, but I like to know a songwriting creative process behind those tracks. Like, for instance, When I'm With You, when I'm alone and it's dark inside, afraid to turn on the light, running in circles, my head in the clouds while you're in the star of the night. And I've been singing it to you before. I like the song.
Thank you. Look, I this is I wrote this with Everett Bradley. He, the inspiration for the song was, what what would you say about your best friend, or what would you say about a lover or a friend or a spouse, or even a pet? What would you would how do they make you feel? Who is What do you say to the person that makes you feel like you can be 100% yourself, where you don't have to play around, where you don't have to put on a facade, where you don't have to say things or act a certain way in order to gain feedback from them, or gain their love or their affection? What if you could just be you, and all of those things would happen? That was at the center of it. So the star in the night is that person, is because it's perfect. There isn't a downside, like, because you can fully be you, and there's nothing in the way, and that's where that came from.
Yeah, I mean, I would say one girl I knew, totally in love with, would be I can be me when I'm with you. That's all I need right there.
It's wonderful. It's a wonderful thing when that happens. It's rare. It's very rare.
Yeah. So, do you start with the melody or the lyrics, or do you think there's a specific emotion or concept that you're trying to?
Yeah, there's usually an emotional concept. There are ideas. Like with When I'm With You, Everett Bradley, he had this beat. The beat that. So that's where we started with that, and then it was the concept of, you know, meeting someone that allows you to be yourself. Marcella Detroit is another writer on the album. Shakespeare's sister, Eric Clapton, and
Hmm.
she had very specific ideas, but others were, very open, and we just went for whatever. But she came in. She always comes in with an idea, like for Better Liar, like she thought she wanted to write a song called Better Liar,
Mm.
and so we did, and I love that song, because it there's so much of that in the world, in so many different places. And one of our writing sessions, I said, Marcella, how would you feel about writing a song about a threesome? and
Oh.
and and she goes, that's a great idea.
Oh my goodness.
So we did. It's called Hurting Nobody. It's also on the new album. And I don't think anyone's quite figured out what it's about. So there you go. If people listen to this interview all the way through, they know.
Yeah, and there was a lot of work that went into recording the Future Trap compared to your previous albums. So you think it was more demanding creatively or technically?
It's a good question. Um, I mean, Marcus Dembinski is my producer that I work with. He's excellent, and he, he can take my ideas and make them real, and he does it very quickly. And he's a great communicator, and so I think creatively, because we went for something very different this time with Surrender, the album I released before this album, before the Future Trap. It was more of just, this is a bunch of songs, but this is how we're going to sequence them, and that's it. But with Future Trap, it was, I wanted to make it a concept album. I wanted there to be a beginning, a middle, and an end. And I'd never really done that before. So we wrote pieces of music in between the tracks to connect the pieces. So some of them flow directly into each other, and you can hear that if you really listen from beginning to end, you'll hear it. It's not very obvious if you just go, because most people just go track to track to track to track. But if you take the time to stop and listen to the whole thing, beginning to end, you'll get it. And it's a journey of a character that we created who is this very flawed human who keeps repeating himself and keeps repeating the same mistakes, and he can't help himself. He just can't help himself. He keeps falling back into the same traps. But a lot of it is based on reality, the way I see the world, my own life, people that I know, my family, friends, lovers. I took a lot of my personal experience and put it into the music, and I think it's just it was a very much like a self-realization project. I could. It was like looking in the mirror the whole time. So it was very good. It was a great experience. And I love the music, that we wrote together and with the other writers, Everett, Bradley, and Marcella, and Annie Haslam, Renaissance, is a writer on it, and Marcus as well. Alfonso Horn is one of the guest musicians. He's excellent. I probably am forgetting somebody because there's a lot of people on it. And my German band, like I have my German drummer on it, and my American bassist, and we have a cellist that's great, a Greek a musician who I've never met, who did all this work remotely. Rachel Flowers, who I've sung with and met, she did all her work remotely.
Wow.
So because of technology, so that's to answer your other question, that we were able to bring in a lot of people just because we can. DJ Kosher, Colin Cher, he's a South African DJ. He's big, well-known producer there. So he's a guest. So it's people from 3 continents, all kinds of styles, but the melodies, and I think my voice, the writing really kind of carries it through.
Thank you so much, Jan. Jan Klose,
welcome.
Everyone.
If you have one more, I
do.
One
Okay,
more. I got
good.
one more. I got one.
I do actually have a closer question for you.
Brilliant.
Good. Now, with such a diverse career already, what excites you most about the future, both musically and beyond?
What excites me most about the future? I mean, it's been so hectic and so busy that right now all I can think about is like, what's on the calendar tomorrow? I'm honestly, I'm trying to kind of just reflect a little bit right now and just look at, okay, what do I want to do next? I have another project that's already been in the making, which is a film, a script, and music. So that's a whole other, beast to tackle, so to speak. But yeah, Christopher, I love being in the creative space and working with other talented artists. And if I can keep doing that as long as possible, I'll be very happy.
Definitely, and I see more and more albums in your future too. So
thank you.
Do it.
I hope so.
Yes. Great, everyone. Thank you so much for watching this wonderful episode with Jan Klose. Everything will be linked down below, including his new album, The Future Trap. And listen to his music. Listen to the whole album. You'll get it. Eventually, you'll get it. But thank you so much, Jan. We're going to end this stream, and I look forward to having you the 5 times.
Sure. It was nice talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah, nice talking to you. Have a good good week, and I'll talk to you soon.
I'm waving to Canada.
Oh, okay. Yeah, waving to the States. Bye.